Hello and welcome. You're tuned into TMH English Daily News. Headlines today: Tigrayans and sympathizers of their struggle to hold a candlelight vigil to commemorate all the deaths on Thursday evening. WHO lacks fuel of preventing distribution of critically needed medical supplies in Tigray region, and the geopolitical irony unfolds as a rival Middle East powers, Eastern powers specifically, align themselves on the side of the Ethiopian government. As we move on to our main news for today, the government of Tigray calls on all Tigrayans and their sympathizers to hold a candlelight vigil on Thursday evening. The purpose of this 1-minute light vigil is to commemorate all of those who paid dearly with their lives and for the liberation of the people of Tigray. The candlelight vigil will be held on the 17th of February, the eve of the start of the armed struggle of the people of Tigray. The government of Tigray also said that the 47th anniversary is being celebrated this year in the face of a genocidal war unleashed by forces hell-bent on reversing the freedom achieved through the sacrifice of a generation. The government of Tigray stated, "It is his historic chapter when we commemorate our martyrs, renew our commitment, and boost our struggle to ensure our survival at the end." WHO says lack of fuel is preventing them from distributing critically needed medical supplies within the region of Tigray. The World Health Organization has been permitted to deliver medical supplies into Tigray, Ethiopia, for the first time since July 2021. Unfortunately, there is no fuel to distribute them within the health centers. The supplies, which are now in storage until they can be distributed, include essential medical equipment, personal protective equipment, antibiotics, medicine for malaria and diabetes, including insulin treatment for severe acute malnutrition, as well as medicines and supplies for reproductive health. WHO says its partner, the World Food Program, began airlifting them to Ma'ala in Tigray on the 11th of February, and more shipments are planned for further this week. Fuel for humanitarian operations has not been allowed in Tigray since August 2021, except for the 2 WFP trucks that were allowed to enter in the month of November. The lack of fuel, cash, and supplies has caused humanitarian operations in Tigray to reduce dramatically, as well as suspend altogether, as highlighted in OSHA's humanitarian update for northern Ethiopia that took place last week. The WHO shipments, which are now part of the 33.5 metric tons of unplanned deliveries, still represent a small portion of what is needed in total. Without access to supplies, health workers are trying to continue to provide health services with almost no medicine or even functioning equipment. According to OSHA, health partners estimate assortment of supplies amounting to over 48,000 metric tons and 1.5 million doses of cholera vaccines are required to meet the urgent health and nutrition needs of the people in Tigray, as well as 888,000 children under 5 also require polio oral vaccinations included. WHO called for unfettered access for the humanitarian operation and the aid into Tigray. It also called for fuel to be allowed into Tigray urgently with the support from the national authorities as well as international partners so that the WHO and their partners can meet the humanitarian aid that is direly needed in the entirety of Ethiopia. Tigrayans who served as peacekeepers in Abiy warned that Abiy Ahmed's government's trap, although the Ethiopian government has been incarcerating Tigrayan peacekeepers due to their mere identity. It is now trying to trap those who completed their mission in Abiy under the pretext of peace and reconciliation. Abiy Ahmed's government is also trying to lure the Tigrayan peacekeepers, saying that they'll be paid in areas in salaries as well. Observers warn Tigrayan peacekeepers not to fall into this trap of committing and continuing the genocide against Tigray. Geopolitical irony unfolding as the rival Middle East powers align themselves on the side of the Ethiopian government. This is by Al Arabia on why the UAE, Turkey, as well as Iran are backing Ethiopian government. Competing regional powers have quietly backed Abiy Ahmed's government in Ethiopia's deadly ongoing conflict. The war on Tigray has turned the country into an arena where many regional international powers are active. Like a Pandora's box suddenly opened, the conflict has borne many geopolitical surprises, but one of its most important ironies is the reported use of drones and weapons supplied by committing powers in the Middle East, who seem to have agreed on their support for Ethiopia's government. The United Arab Emirates has intervened in the Ethiopian war since it began, even after Tigrayan forces pushed out the Ethiopian forces and advanced southwards in the summer of 2021. An Emirati air bridge supporting the government was monitored in the compromise more than 90 flights between the two countries in the period between September and November of 2021. The UAE's intervention was an extension of its strategy to build an allied political as well as security system across the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa, most notably following Houthi gains around the Bab al-Mandab at the beginning of Yemen's conflict. Abiy Ahmed's election as Ethiopia's prime minister in the year 2018 further accelerated an alliance between the capital of Addis Ababa as well as Abu Dhabi. The same year, the UAE-sponsored Eritrean Ethiopian peace agreement pledged to support the Ethiopian treasury with $3 billion and made huge investments in various sectors as well. From the perspective, the possibility of Tigray seizing power in Addis Ababa was a threat to these political arrangements and Emirati investments, especially since the TPLF view of Abu Dhabi was hostility after its role in the early months of the war. Turkey's Bayraktar TB2 drones are seen in military operations in Ethiopia's conflict after Ahmed's visit to Ankara in August of 2021, representing the relationship which had become estranged in parallel with the development of Ethiopia's ties with the UAE, Saudi, access, and Turkey saw drone support from the Ethiopian government as a strategic gain, bolstering its reputation in the African military, as well as the security market after it had proven its success in the African war arena with growing demand for this type of weapon. Ankara's participation also indicates that Turkish construction companies can make a significant contribution to the reconstruction of infrastructure in the areas destroyed by the war. Ankara's ties with Ethiopia are related to the exchange of support between the two countries, which take place in the context of their conflict with the country of Egypt. According to investigative websites, Iranian drones have also been seen in Ethiopia. 15 flights specifically from two airlines linked to Iran's Islamic Revolution Guard Corporation have been monitored from Iran to Harameda military base in Ethiopia. The sharp dispute between Ethiopia and the United States over the war in Tigray and Washington's continuous pressure on Abiy Ahmed's government, who has framed the conflict as a colonial attack on Ethiopia's unity, has already apparently brought Tehran and Addis Ababa closer. Iran sees the Ethiopian military's equipment as an opportunity to expand its strategic presence in a country that is historically an ally of the United States as well as Israel. Iranian engagement also indicates Iran's desire to enter the burgeoning military and security market within the African continent. However, the most important prize for Tehran is a return to Ethiopia, which is situated closer to Yemen, the Arabian Peninsula, and the Horn of Africa, after losing its influence in recent years with allies of Eritrea and Sudan following Emirati-Saudi pressure and the fall of Omar al-Bashir's regime in Khartoum after popular protests. Ultimately, all three powers are trying to exploit a moment of Ethiopia's weakness to create or consolidate their influence within that corner of Africa. The weight and the extent of their involvement are best indicated perhaps by the consultation of the U.S. envoy to the Horn of Africa has been having with the Middle Eastern capitals to try and find a solution to this ongoing Ethiopian crisis. That concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye.